Hi, welcome to Fun Science with Rohini. The tell me why of today is why do clouds come in different shapes? Clouds are little droplets of water that can float in the air. When there's a bunch of droplets gathered and when they float together as a group, they form heavy bodies. Now, if these water droplets travel all the way very far into the sky, the air is very cold, and that cold air freezes the water droplets, and these frozen water droplets appear as strands. We call them wisps or strands, and these clouds are named cirrus. Cirrus in Latin means curl of hair, and some people consider it as horsetail shaped clouds. They are basically thin, long strands of clouds, wisps of strands of clouds, wispy strands. And then, when the water droplets don't reach all the way to that level where the air is very cold, but they stop a little lower, wherein the air is not very cold, it's a little warm, and these water droplets that are traveling together are still wet, and they group together in that wet form, and they form wet blankets or sheets sort of clouds, and that is called stratus. These stratus appears like a dark fog like clouds, and they are dark gray. Some people even tell that they are honeycomb shaped, and they cover the entire sky. On a gloomy day, you see stratus. Now, there's a layer below the stratus clouds, and here when it is windy, these clouds are squeezed, pushed and pulled and changed by the wind around them and made into different shapes. Like you pull and push and shape your playing clay, it is the wind does it on the cloud, and they form big giant shaped clouds with proper shapes. And these are the clouds that you observe on a sunny day, and cloud watchers name these clouds, and you find shapes in them. A dinosaur or a rabbit with a pink cap is what somebody posted, and these are the clouds. They are called cumulus, thick fluffy giant properly shaped clouds. Stratus is also fluffy, but it's more like a foggy sheet covering the sky. And then right at the top, we have cirrus, which is wisps of strand. So why do the clouds appear in different shapes, or why do the clouds have different shapes? It is because of the air that is present around them, and air temperature varies. If it's very cold, cirrus, a little warm, it is stratus, and then very windy, such that the clouds can be squeezed and squished and squashed, cumulus. That is why clouds appear in so many shapes. Now, because we have been discussing about clouds, I will narrate an experiment in science which was done on thunderclouds, lightning and thunderclouds. And this is a very dazzling, incredible experiment. I would rather say it's an incredible experiment, at least to me. And this is called Ben Franklin's key on a kite hypothesis. It's a very intriguing experiment because many historians claim that it could not have been done. Some claim, yes, it is done, and it was also published in the Gazette back in 1752. And it's a very strange experiment, but very beautiful also. It triggers your imagination a lot. Now, there was a scientist called Ben Franklin, and he wrote to his friend in France, Collinson, proposing a hypothesis that lightning and electricity are linked, and that you can bring the lightning to the ground by using a very tall metallic pole or a rod. That metal metal rods can be used to capture lightning and bring the lightning to the ground. He proposed this in 1750. And then he thought that it is very difficult to have a very long pole that can go all the way up into the sky. So he dropped the idea. But in France, when Ben Franklin's letter was translated, one scientist got very interested. And on May 10th, 1752, he conducted the experiment. He put up a very long metallic pole. He could capture the lightning and bring it to Earth. And Ben Franklin also proposed that these metallic conductors will protect your homes from lightning strikes. So it was a very interesting hypothesis. It was tested in 1752 on 10th May by Dalibard, and it was done and all that. And then in 1752, on 10th June 1752, it is assumed that Ben Franklin conducted the experiment in a much simpler way. A very dangerous way also, at least that is what I thought. When I was discussing this experiment during lunch, everybody, non-science people were sitting, my friends were sitting with me. We were a big family having lunch that day. They were all amazed at the nature of the experiment. The thing is, Ben Franklin made a kite with a silk handkerchief, silk cloth. And then to this silk cloth, he connected a normal string, a hemp string. And at the end of the string, he tied a key. And between the string and after the string, the key was tied. And after the key, he tied a silk ribbon for him to be able to fly the kite, for him to hold on to the kite when it is flying in the sky. And this metallic key was connected to a small jar. Leydig jars are what they call. This jar is supposed to capture the electricity that is coming down from lightning. And on a cloudy day, on a day wherein there was a thunderstorm, Ben Franklin is supposed to have gone out, stood under the shade of a shed, and he flew his kite. The kite got wet, the thread, the string tied to the kite got wet, and the key also got wet. But Ben Franklin was standing under the shed in such a way that his silk ribbon with which he was holding the kite did not get wet. And Ben Franklin saw that electric discharges were collected in the Leydig jar because the string holding onto the kite was showing it was moving apart, like how your strands of hair move apart when there is a static electricity on them. And then he also said that when he touched the kite, touched the key, there was a spark emanating from it. Now, this is an impossible scenario wherein you are standing in a thunderstorm and you are flying a silk kite which was attached at the tip to a metallic rod, and the lightning strikes the rod and the silk kite is all wet, the thread is all wet, the key is all wet, and then you touch it. It should actually, to a layman's sense, it should produce an electric shock enough to kill a person. But Ben Franklin, nothing of that sort happened. He wrote the experiment and the paper, and it was published in Gazette. And Priestley was the person who wrote the biography of Ben Franklin, and he was supposed to have discussed the experiment with Ben Franklin. But the point here is, today's scientists or today's historians think that fortunately for Ben Franklin, he did not capture visible lightning, or visible lightning did not strike his kite. Instead, he collected electric discharges from around the clouds on the thunderstorm, on the day of the thunderstorm, and that is how he could have survived and collected the electric discharge and also published his paper. Finally, the outcome of the paper is lightning is same as electricity, and lightning can be brought to the ground from the sky. Hope you enjoyed. Thank you.